Do you want to take better photos with your Canon EOS M50? Well, in today's video, I'm going to give you 3 quick tips on how to do just that. So let's get right into it. What's going on, everyone? My name is Jeremy Gray and welcome to the video. Now, before we get started, I do want to disclose that this video is definitely geared more towards beginners, people just starting out taking photos. Now, with that being said, let's get into it. So if you bought a Canon EOS M50, I'm assuming the reason you bought it was to vlog or make videos because it is a splendid little vlogging camera. But maybe, just maybe, now you want to start taking better photos with it. You want to stop using your cell phone and start using the M50 that you paid money for and you're taking it traveling with you or around town with you. So you'd like to take better photos with it and not just vlog with it. So like I've said, I prepared 3 tips that should help you capture better images. So my first tip that I prepared for you is lighting. Lighting plays such a critical role in any photograph. And of course, there's other important aspects to a photo like composition and subject, but typically lighting is completely out of your control unless you're shooting in a studio with controlled lighting. So when it comes to lighting, my simple tips would just be try to pick the time of day that you're going to shoot, especially if this is for leisure or for practice. Photographers typically like to shoot outdoors, either at sunrise or sunset. It's when the light is the most appealing and usually like the flattest. Now, I do want to preface that I am first and foremost a portrait photographer, so a lot of my lighting experience is going to come from that, and that's where these tips are really stemming from. My personal favorite time to go out and shoot portraits is about an hour to an hour and a half before sunset, depending on where I'm shooting. That gives me enough time to set up my client and get some shots as the sun's going down, and usually the light just gets more and more beautiful as the shoot progresses. And if you're just starting out and you're practicing and you have the luxury of choosing what day to shoot, do your best to aim for a cloudy day because the clouds are going to act as a natural softbox to flatten the light on your image so your subject's not sitting there like squinting their eyes the whole time and they can't see anything. And if you don't have the luxury to pick your day, say you are working for a client and you need to get this done today, then do your best to shoot at a location where you can find some shade if it is a really sunny day. Because finding a little shade is going to make the world of a difference. I can't tell you how many times some gigantic tree saved our family portrait session at a wedding. And even right now, to shoot this video, it's 3:30 in the afternoon, the sun is high and bright, there's almost no clouds in the sky, but I came into the woods to get some shade from the trees so I could shoot this outside. And one more thing to keep in mind about lighting is even if it's not perfect out and it's not ideal conditions, shoot the image anyway. Some of my favorite images that I've taken with the Canon EOS M50 have been in terrible, and I mean terrible lighting conditions, like at the top of a mountain at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, super bright sunlight lighting conditions. All of the photos that I'm showing you right now were taken with the Canon EOS M50 with the kit lens at less than ideal lighting conditions, but I shot the shot anyway because I was there, and that's when I was there, and I wasn't going to be back there, and if I was, it wasn't going to be for a very long time. And these are actually some of my favorite pictures that I've ever taken while traveling. So keep that in mind. Don't think that you need perfect lighting conditions to shoot the image, just aim for them. So my second tip for you is to pay close attention to the focal length that you're shooting with a particular subject. But before I delve more into this, please bear in mind that photography is indeed an art. Photography is subjective, so there's no right or wrong answer, like there's no right or wrong focal length for a particular image, or no right or wrong lens or camera. It's all subjective. This is just my personal preference for my personal style of shooting, for what I personally like. My personal tips. Let's get into it. So like I mentioned, being a portrait photographer, I obviously gravitate more towards portrait style lenses. The classic portrait lenses are a 50mm, an 85mm, a 105, a 135. Those are pretty much it. Typically longer focal lengths make for a better portrait for the most part. But again, it could be any focal length that you want for a particular image. And right now we're going to talk about the kit lens, which has a focal length of 15mm to 45 with a variable aperture. But it's not a true 15 to 45 because this is a crop sensor. You're getting the equivalent field of view on a full frame camera of something around 24 to 70, which is a spectacular lens. That lens lived in my bag for wedding season, except when it was on the camera. I don't mean it lived in my bag like I didn't use it. So if you're going out to take some banger portraits and you're using the kit lens, get off that 15, get off that wide, try zooming in a bit. You're gonna see a difference because the subject and the background are gonna start to separate more. You're gonna get some bokeh and it's gonna look really, really nice. But that doesn't mean never shoot a person at 15mm. I shoot at 15mm all the time if I'm getting my full body in with some like vast landscape or something like that. Like I said, there's no right or wrong way, there's just situations. So if you were to zoom into say the 18 range, the 18 to 24 range on the kit lens, you're gonna get around 24 to 35-ish millimeters, which is great for portraits. And if you zoom in even more to around the 30 to 35 mark, that'll be around a 50 millimeter lens, which is gorgeous for portraits. You're gonna lose a little bit with the aperture, but it's not gonna be the end of the world. Something to keep in mind is that with a wider focal length, things are gonna kind of look further away, which is why shooting a tighter shot with like 32 millimeters or 45 millimeters is gonna look better for a person's face or 3/4 view. So let me just show you really quick what I really mean. So basically what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a photograph of Dorothy at 15 millimeters on the kit lens and then zoom into 35 millimeters on the kit lens. So do your best to see the difference between the two. The 15 should come off slightly more distorted, while the 35 has a more compressed look to it. The 15, she's kind of pushed forward, the background's not as blurry. And then when I zoom into 35 millimeters, it's more compressed, you get more bokeh in the background, and it just looks more like a standard nice portrait. And again, it's all subjective, it's all your personal taste and preference. I just prefer it this way. So with that being said, just keep in mind, photography is subjective. It is an art form. Whatever you like your images to look like is what you like them to look like. Now my third tip, and it might be an obvious one, but it is to shoot raw images and not JPEGs. Now if you're completely new and you have no idea what a raw image is, you're gonna have to go into your camera settings, switch it off a JPEG, and switch it to shooting RAW. RAW files are a much larger file with a much flatter image, which is gonna give you a lot more flexibility in post-production with color balancing and dynamic range and just fixing all that stuff. And if you're really new to post-production, don't get scared. Take your camera, go outside, shoot some raw images of the tree or your house or the pond, whatever you have around you, and go into Lightroom or whatever editing software that you use and practice editing those raw photos to see what you can do. But I can promise you a raw image is gonna provide you with a lot more flexibility than a JPEG. The only time I really consider shooting JPEGs is if I'm, say, just taking some quick shots of my kids or my wife doing something cute or playing, and they're just images more for memories and not so much for processing. And I would never, I mean never, shoot JPEGs for a paying client or any client. Never shoot JPEGs. Please shoot RAW. And since you stuck around to the end of the video, I'm gonna give you a bonus tip because I like bonus tips. So if you bought a Canon M50 and you plan on sticking around with this ecosystem for quite some time, I can heavily suggest investing in some prime lenses for this camera. One lens in particular that I have fallen in love with for this camera is the EFM 22mm f2 lens, which this video is currently being shown. Doesn't it look beautiful? In my humble opinion, this lens produces a much better image than the kit lens. It's sharper and it gives you a much better separation from the background, nice bokeh, and overall better low light performance, which is very important because this camera really slacks with low light performance. This lens practically lives on my camera. I barely pull out my kit lens anymore unless I need a wider shot for some kind of vlog that I'm doing. I do have a full review on this lens. I'm not gonna go into too much detail in this video, but I'll link that video up here so you could check that out if you're interested. But the 22mm lens isn't the only prime lens that I recommend for the Canon EOS M50. There's a bunch of them out there. Some off the top of my head are Canon's EF50mm lens, which you will need an adapter for, but the image comes out beautiful. And then Sigma's 3 contemporary line of lenses, which are the 16mm, the 32mm, and the 58mm, all f1.4, all beautiful lenses. Typically, prime lenses give you a better image than a zoom lens. They're a lot sharper and perform much better in low light, and typically they're smaller. Typically. So I hope this video helps some of you new photographers out. If you have any other questions, drop a comment down below. I will get back to you with some answers. Subscribe for future content. And if you are curious about any of the gear that I use to make my videos or take my photos, like the 22mm lens, there'll be Amazon affiliate links down in the description. And if you click those, they bring you over to Amazon. And if you buy anything, I get a small commission at no extra charge to you. It just helps this channel keep growing so I can help you all out. And if you're new to vlogging and don't exactly know what settings to use to make your vlogs, I'll link you to a video right here where I quickly show you what settings I personally use for my vlogs, and underneath that will be the lens review for the Canon EFM 22mm lens. I'll see you over there.